Like John Bidwell and John Sutter, military hero Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo figures prominently in California history. From 1834 until the Bear Flag takeover in 1846, Vallejo was the undisputed Mexican ruler of Alto California, north of the San Francisco Bay. Today, California State Parks is preserving some of the structures from Vallejo's era. These buildings are open to the public and can be found in the towns of Sonoma and nearby Petaluma. Sonoma State Historic Park makes up a significant part of the town plaza and contains soldiers' barracks and the last of the Mexican missions, San Francisco de Solano de Sonoma. Half a mile from the plaza, visitors may tour Vallejo's Victorian home, Lacrima Mantis. 30 minutes away in the town of Petaluma, the public may explore the impressively restored adobe that once served as the main residence of Vallejo's agricultural empire. We'll begin my visit to the area in Petaluma, at Petaluma Adobe State Historic Park, where festivities for the town's annual celebration, Old Adobe Fiesta, were well underway. I met with Larry, one of the park's rangers, to get some facts on the Petaluma Adobe and neighboring Sonoma State Historic Park. Larry, give me a little history on Petaluma Adobe State Historic Park.
Okay, the adobe is what remains of General Vallejo's large rancho. He had a 100-square-mile rancho here in the Petaluma Valley, actually extended from Petaluma over to the town of Sonoma, from the bay up to almost to Santa Rosa. And on this land, he was mostly doing a lot of farming and ranching, raising of cattle. The main reason for the cattle was so that they could sell the hides and the tallow, trade them to the Americans for things that they wanted.
Now, the building that we see today is only part of the original structure, but it's been fully restored, hasn't it?
That's right. We have only half of the original building, and it's still a very large adobe, as you saw. The interior was just redone this last year, and the exterior, all the wood on the outside had to be replaced in the 1960s, but still is holding up pretty well because it's the redwood. The building itself is in pretty good shape. We have on display now a large museum room with displays about the rancho and the rancho period. We also have a spinning weaving room, we have a woodworking room, a room displaying leathercraft, and upstairs we have living quarters of what we figured there must have been people living in the building, the ones mainly that were associated with the building itself, with the factory. When I say factory, the spinning and weaving, maybe the curing of the hides, working around the building.
You have a special event going on today, something that doesn't happen every week, I take it.
Once a year. This is our Old Adobe Fiesta. It's put on by our association that helps support the park. This one happens to be the 36th annual one. It started as a celebration of the centennial for the town of Petaluma, and then the next year they got together and decided, why don't we put it on every year out at the Adobe?
And there's a lot of events going on. Leatherworking, there's a blacksmith, which I don't think is dressed in period costume necessarily, but still the type of thing that went on during that time, right?
Right. This isn't a living history, but they do have a lot of things that could have gone on at that time, like our candle dipping and the basket making, that we allow people to participate in, and it gives them a little view of maybe what the place was like. What I like about the Fiesta is you have a lot of action going on up in the courtyard, and normally this place is pretty quiet. But with the activities going on, you can almost get a feeling of how this place must have been when all the workers were here and working and doing their crafts and doing their jobs, their occupations.
Larry, how far is the Sonoma Mission from here, and what can a visitor expect to see when they get there?
The Sonoma Mission and the other parks in Sonoma are roughly about a half hour or less from this park. I like to send people over there because it ties in so well with this park. In the mission, you have the last mission in the chain of California missions, and actually it's the last mission in the chain of California, speaking of Baja and Northern California missions. The others were all Spanish. This was the only Mexican mission. Next to the mission on the plaza is the barracks. This was where Vallejo brought his garrison from San Francisco when he was sent up to Sonoma. They produced the barracks. That's where they lived and stored their weapons and their powder and everything. And I've heard that's also where the soldiers worked out of. In other words, if Vallejo needed to take a troop over to Fort Ross or down to the Bay or something, he would go to the garrison and say, okay, let's take off and go do the job.
Now, in the same area as the Sonoma Mission is the Vallejo home, which has one of the most beautiful drives leading to the house that I've ever seen.
That's right. I think it's a quarter-mile long, lined with cottonwoods and roses that Vallejo planted or had planted when he lived there. It goes up to the house, which is an older Victorian that was actually put together piece by piece from parts brought around the Horn from the East Coast on a sailing ship. There are a couple of these still left in California. One is also over at Benicia, the town of Benicia. But the little Victorian is quite beautiful inside. Even though it's a little bit small, the rooms seem to have a special air about them. One of the nicest things about that building is that we inherited it with the furniture and most of the interior, even the colors. We knew what colors we should have inside. And so we have pretty much the way it was left when Vallejo passed away there.
So it was original furniture, everything that he owned, his possessions.
Pretty much everything there belonged to Vallejo. We inherited from his last surviving daughter.
What is the importance of Petaluma Adobe and Sonoma State Park to the state of California, and why are we preserving them?
This is a real tough question for me. I mean, I have the answers in my heart, and that's the reason that I work for the park system. As far as the Petaluma Adobe itself, we have a building that has stood now for over 150 years. It's one of the best examples of the construction that was being done in California during the changeover, the period that when it was part of Mexico, when we had not only the influence of the Spanish, but also of the Americans and other cultures coming in. All these thrown together in this kind of a stew pot that is California. And I would be so afraid, you know, if we lost that we'd lose our vision of a multiple cultural California.